Hey guys, this is the Leadership to Wealth podcast, and I'm your host, Neil D'Souza. We're on a journey to bring together men and women that believe in taking personal responsibility and ownership in their life. Now, if that's you and you want to take massive action in the areas of finance, fitness, and family, because my guest today, awesome guy, he owns the Cuadra group of companies. He's into retail, he's into real estate, he's into public speaking, is none other than Alfonso Cuadra. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Neil, I appreciate the roll of the R, my friend. I love that. Good to be here.
Great to have you. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm so appreciative that that Mandy actually even connected us. Shout out to Mandy Branham. And
yes, love her.
Yes. Do you have or what would you say is your superpower?
My superpower is with people, engaging with people, getting motivating people, moving people, caring about people, empowering people, enriching people. I love people.
That's great.
Yes. Without people, nothing can be done.
I'd like to get into this, what we call the leadership portion, where we get to learn more about you and your journey.
Sure. Well, I was born in El Salvador in the mid-'70s during a civil war. Moved around a lot in Central America. Actually was in two civil wars, El Salvador and Nicaragua, until we immigrated to Canada. I was about 9 years old. Because we moved around so much, I had missed a lot of educational opportunities. And when we came in as refugees, I had a really tough time integrating into school. Just, I didn't fit into that system. I really, I felt that I was an outsider in school. And I was frustrated. And eventually I dropped out of high school at 15 years old. And because I remember feeling so angry, my dad left when I was 2 years old. I was in all these war-torn countries. And I was a troubled child, if you will. And I ended up, leaving home as well, being completely homeless, sleeping on park benches, panhandling for change. Just had some really dark moments, but Neil, we've all had these dark moments, right? I mean,
right.
I think it's the dark moments that shape us. And it's not about what happens to us, is how do we react and what we do because of what happens to us. And I learned a lot on the streets, living on the streets, and and I was really headed down a really bad path. I would have ended either up in jail or dead. And I had a life-changing moment at 17 when I became a father. Actually, I have the picture right here.
Oh, wow.
Right here.
Look at that.
Her name is Talia. I have two daughters, actually. But if you see me here, I'm 17 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
And basically, it's a baby having another baby.
Yeah.
What happened to me is that moment changed my life. You see, before I had my daughter, I was so angry at the world. I had a lot of blame. Everybody was against me. People would try to talk sense into me, and I wouldn't listen to it, right? And when I became a father, I stopped looking at myself, and I started to look at somebody else and saying to myself, like, I'm going to be responsible for this human being. I better get my stuff together, And I remember when the nurse put her in my arms at the hospital, right here in Ottawa, Montfort Hospital. And it's like something happened to me, something really, really life-changing. I always tell her, her name is Talia. I said, you're my guardian angel. You came and you just changed everything. It was a life changer for me. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, Alfonso, you gotta change, right? You gotta change the way you think. You gotta change everything. You're responsible for this other human being.
Mhm.
And I remember not having a father for myself, and I remember having a really tough time with that. Like why did he leave? Why was he not around? And of course, I had no money, nothing, but I wasn't gonna be one of those fathers that was not present, didn't contribute. And I decided to get my life together. Went back to school, and I had a job. Didn't pay much, $5 an hour. You can tell how long ago that was.
Yeah.
And I tried. There was no executive jobs available.
Yeah.
but $5 an hour. I had this small family, and I was going to do the right thing, and so $5 an hour was just not going to cut it. So what I did was I started a business. I became an entrepreneur as a result of having this massive responsibility and having to provide, and still having the desire to finish high school, because I didn't, I quit high school because I didn't feel it was for me.
Yeah.
But how can I look at my daughter and tell her to finish high school, if I didn't? And so It was so important that I at least get my high school. And at the same time, I started a small business, which is a clothing business.
Yeah.
I was selling T-shirts and jeans and mixtapes from my backpack in high school in my locker.
Yep.
And I discovered the differences between, profit and wages. And, my value at that time was $5 an hour.
Yeah.
But I could make a $40 profit, selling a pair of jeans that I bought in Toronto or Montreal at $20 for $60 in school.
Yeah.
And so, when I graduated high school, I had this vision, this idea of opening my own physical location.
Yeah.
But of course, I had no business education. Nobody in my family ever owned a business. I had nobody really to look up to, no resources. And I just had this dream, and I knew that I was going to do it. So I narrowed it down to about $2,700 that I needed to raise. And I literally went around to all my friends at the time. People pitched in like $50, $200, $500. And that was my first joint venture opportunity. I had zero money, no job, zero money. And, I took those $2,700 and I started my company, which before the age of 20 was grossing in the millions.
Yeah.
And before the age of 21, we had locations all across Canada, and everything just kind of transformed. Like my whole life transformed from there.
So I've got to ask the question. I mean, I'm not even going to get into mixtapes, but I do have some mixtapes downstairs. But if you don't know what that is, I'm sorry you missed out. But
even mixed CDs. I'm talking about mixtapes. Remember, you go to the dollar store, you get the whole stack.
Yep.
You break the top and you put the little
the tabs. Yeah.
And then you get the mixtape. Not only is a mixtape counter or whatever they call it, I don't know what you call pirated.
Yeah.
But then you're pirating the pirating.
Yep.
So
And then we would draw different things on that tape to, For all of you that don't know about mixtapes, I'm sorry you missed out on just an amazing time in history. But I wanted to ask this question because of that time in history, because I'm only a few years older than you, but I know that was a time where entrepreneurship was not something that people talked about a whole lot. In amongst the people that I knew, an entrepreneur, you were something amazing.
They didn't even call it entrepreneurship.
No.
Entrepreneur. I couldn't even spell it when I first someone told me I'm an entrepreneur. I said, well, how do you spell that? Like, I always get the U and the E mixed up at the end, like entrepreneur. I can't even spell entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I just I knew one thing: profit. Right. And I knew that at my job, $5 an hour, there was a difference between you work an hour and here's your pay based on your market value.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't going to go to university, I knew in my heart, my market value would not increase. So there was this urgency, and I saw, okay, my time is better served pursuing profits.
Yeah.
And so I made a decision early on that I was going to pursue profits for the rest of my life.
Wow. That's a really significant shift. I mean, people go their entire lives and never understand that correlation. And so that's an amazing shift for you to make at such a
At 17.
yeah, at such
Yeah.
a young age, right?
Yeah.
Because the teachings of the time were work hard, get a good job, work hard, and
Go to school.
Go to school. That's right. And if you don't go to school, you're going to have to work even harder to raise up the ranks, right? And
Yeah.
And so that's an amazing shift. How did you deal with the the idea of stability in a job? I mean, you've got a child. This idea of stability in a job versus I've got to. Did you start that out as a side hustle,
Yeah.
as they call it now?
No, actually, I went into it like when I saw the power of profits.
Yeah.
And I saw
I
that,
love this. The power of profits.
Yeah, I saw that my market value was only $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Out of necessity, Neil, is why I decided to pursue profits, because I didn't feel like I had the time or the luxury to wait to become supervisor of my kitchen, or like I didn't. That was a long road. Yeah. Where I can just pursue profits the whole time and make that into a business.
Yeah.
No one was talking about entrepreneurship.
No.
People were talking about the only way you could have a business is if you have some sort of education in business. Mm-hmm. And so my second lesson was the power in people. And the power in people means basically whatever you're lacking in your life, look for the people that have those skill sets, mm-hmm. and bring them in, right?
Yeah.
And those are the people that I needed at first, because I had no business skills. I was good with people. I could sell like there was no tomorrow. I could create profits. But there's other things in business that you need, like process, like management, all of these things that I just simply didn't have the skill sets for. And so I quickly looked for the people that had those skill sets, and then I empowered them to make decisions so I can go and grow the company. That's how we grew so quickly.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing, especially at that age, that you were able to make those shifts and to be able to see the power in people at that age is amazing. So you make this shift, you start this business, you start doing really well. And I'm guessing your first location was probably in Ottawa.
Yes.
And then you started opening up places in across the country.
Yes. So, because there's always a downside to the story, right?
Yes.
I mean,
it's
not like, oh yeah, I started a business and it's been uphill. Is it uphill or? Well, I guess we've been going up the whole time. And 9/11 happened.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, 9/11 was the very first time I ever felt a contraction in the market. Right.
Yeah.
If you were not in business during 9/11, you didn't feel it.
Right.
For me, I felt it. I was never used to it. Think about it. If you're 20 years old and everything you do works out, you think it's always going to be that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
You're invincible, right?
Yeah.
And the truth was, so there was a mini contraction. Everything just stopped.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, no flights. People were like glued to CNN. People were scared to spend, especially in the Ottawa area, the high tech area. You had JDS, Fritel, Nortel, all these companies just shutting down or contracting.
Yeah.
I had never experienced that before, because when I started was at a tail end of a contraction or of a recession in the 90s. So 96, 97. And to be honest with you, Neil, people would, I would talk about my dream of starting a business, and people would talk about a recession. Like, how can you start a business? There's a recession. And I would just smile and nod because I didn't know what the meaning of the word was. And so I always tell people, thank God I didn't know the meaning of the word. It might have.
You might not have started.
Yeah, it would have scared me.
Yeah.
I thought, it sounded like a positive word to me, right? So that's just kind of being a bit naive, and that being naive is kind of what allowed me to expand.
Right.
But I was so naive that I thought, you know what, this is life. I've made it, right? And I actually had moved down to Miami, living a Miami lifestyle. If you can imagine, 21, 22 years old, having access to, in my mind, unlimited funds.
Yeah.
And being part of the urban life and hip hop and videos, and Escalades and rims and jewelry. And so you can imagine where my mindset was. Even though I figured out how to make money, I didn't have the other parts of the equation figured out. Number two is how to keep money. Number three is how to multiply money.
Right.
And so I figured out how to make money. Anybody can figure out how to make money. But, I didn't have the investor mindset. I was very much a consumer. And there's huge differences in, being a consumer and being an investor. A lot of people make money and they pursue assets. I didn't even know what that word meant, right? I was just basically making money, and it was coming in, it was pouring in.
Right.
When there was a contraction, money stops.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like a tap. When you close the tap, you're left at the bottom of the tap, doing this. And I was not used to it, and I almost lost everything.
Yeah.
So, I was making millions at 21. By 24, I was negative $1 million and almost at the point of bankruptcy.
Wow.
And so I made a decision in my life that, and I read these books, that this whole situation caused me to, okay, what is the meaning? Okay, you make money, but why are we making money? Like, what's the purpose, and how do you keep money, and how do you multiply money? And so Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I started to shift my mindset. And I said to myself, I'm going to go back and rebuild my business, but this time I want a secondary source of income, another source that's indestructible, that's Armageddon proof, that it doesn't depend on the market, competition. It's something that I know. I want to know that this money's coming in no matter what. Mm-hmm. And that's why I chose real estate, and to be more specific, apartment buildings.
Yeah.
And I made that shift at that time from making money to wanting to just become wealthy.
Yeah.
And I searched out all the people that were going to help me do that, and we just started to build.
So, wow. So here you're in this moment where you're looking at $1 million in the red. It's no longer black. It's now red, which quite frankly would be debilitating to most people.
It would be, it's the most humiliating thing to not be able to answer your phone.
Right.
It's horrible. Every time my phone rang, my heart would stop because I know it was someone asking for money.
Yeah.
Or wanting to know when they're going to get paid.
And when you're in that situation, in truth, it doesn't matter to a person whether it's $1 million, $100,000, or $10,000. Obviously, your level of money consciousness will control that a little bit. But when you're there, it can be really debilitating if you're thinking, how do I do this? Because you haven't been through this cycle before. You don't have the hindsight to be able to go, I know what to do.
My accountant said you should be bankrupt or go through a bankruptcy. To be honest with you, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know I didn't know what it meant, a bankruptcy. What does it mean? It means people stop calling you.
Yeah.
And I said, well, then what do I do? It was just go get a job. You know, like I have to restart my life. I couldn't see myself going back to $5 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, there's something to, and this is what I learned, you know, when it comes to the power of people in managing people and in leadership. Good leaders rise up and they inspire people to rebuild, right? I was contracting, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I didn't want to answer my phone. And until one day I said, I can't go out like this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I decided to answer my phone, you know, talk to my staff, talk to everyone, because people were bailing. I mean, if the staff thinks you're going down, everybody's gonna like, what can I get? Like, what can I grab? Like, you know, like this is this is a sinking ship. Yeah. Right. And so this is where I learned about leadership and getting people excited, even though you're down. Yeah. Getting people to come to work, show up excited, you know, being willing to give their all because they believe in the vision that you have. Yeah. And the truth, Neil, is that I've forgotten all about my why, right? My head was too big. I was, you know, worried too much about flash. And so this is what happens. When we get a small little taste of success, I think it's a test from the universe, because it's so easy to forget about why you wanted that in the first place. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to stop doing the things that got you there in the first place. Mm-hmm. You know, when I started my business, I was in my business 9 to 9, 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. 9 to 9, 7 days a week. You know, I lived and breathed this business. This was why I was so successful at the beginning. But what happens is, you know, it's so easy to forget how you started, right? And the grind and the hustle, right? You know, and so I never took that for granted ever again. Like there's nothing that gives me more pleasure than being in my office, working, doing things, you know, interacting with people, inspiring people, helping people, you know, grow the business. Okay, where are we now? What can we do more? What can we do more? You know, that's called expansion. You cannot expand and contract at the same time. Right. Right. So you either have to be in a level of expansion, or you're contracting. Right. If you are, you know, if you're taking a 6-month hiatus, you're contracting. Your business will contract, guaranteed. Yeah. Right. And so that was, and I always, you know, looking back in hindsight, I'm so thankful and grateful to the universe, whatever it is, the higher powers, for giving me that experience, because thank God I'm not at a level where, you know, now I'm playing with multi-millions of dollars with investor money. I got lenders. I got people that rely on me. Yeah. And thank God that I've gone through that experience, because I know how easy it is to contract. I know how easy it is to lose it all. Yeah. And so I didn't go bankrupt. I decided to fight and rebuild my business, and now build a secondary leg of my business, which was the real estate, that was going to be indestructible. No matter what I did in my life, no matter how many vacations I wanted to take, that business would be, I knew exactly where we're standing. Yeah. Now comes 2008. Yes. And 2008, I'm like, oh my God, here we go again. Right. Yeah. But this time I was in better shape. I was in a position to not only maneuver through 2008, but to acquire more. And I expanded even more after 2008 than ever before, because I was ready. Right. And so now let's fast forward to 2020, because before 2020, people asked me, what are some of your goals? I said, you know what, my 5-year goal from now till 2025 is going to be, I want to acquire 7,500 doors. My
Right.
10-year goal is 75,000. And inside of me, I didn't really know how in the world I would achieve that,
Yeah.
right? It was something, if we want to talk about goals a little bit, what's a good goal? Something that excites you and scares you at the same time. That's a good goal. So for me, it was a goal that was worthy of me. It excited me, and it gets me out of bed in the morning. You know what? The idea that I can go from being homeless to owning 75,000 doors.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I had no clue how in the world I was going to do it. And then boom, March 20th, as you know,
Yeah.
March 20th was the time that we all knew nothing will ever be the same again.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized exactly how I was going to get to 7,500 doors. Because by the time we're done this cycle, I'll pick up another 5,000 units for sure.
Wow. Wow. That's brilliant. There's so many things there. But I want to ask about this, having a goal that both excites you and scares you, because I think there's a secret in there for the mindset, this leadership mindset that we want to talk about. A lot of people would like to go into, well, you need something realistic, right? You need something realistic because most people allowed themselves to dream at one point, and then they came up against some roadblocks or something like that, and then they fell flat and they stopped.
Yep.
And they realized, oh, I'm never going to be able to get there, or that doesn't make sense, because of course they listened to everybody around them that probably said, you need to just declare bankruptcy, you need to just this or that, or whatever the case may be. But how does someone balance something like that, to have something that excites them and scares them, but so that and I've heard you use the difference between something that motivates you versus something that inspires you.
Yes.
And so how do you explain that for people? Because there's people when you're young, you have the naivety, right? You don't know, you don't know what recession means. You don't know what bankruptcy means. So it even sounds like a good thing. So you go forward. But after you've run into a wall a few times, the thinking changes. So how does someone navigate that wants to, okay, I know that this is possible because I can see men like Alfonso that have moved forward. Maybe it's possible for me too.
Yeah. So the biggest obstacle for a lot of people, including the people that are listening to this program, is themselves.
Yeah.
That's your biggest obstacle, right?
Yeah.
It's not the fact that we don't set goals or that there's a lack of opportunity in life, because there's opportunity everywhere. Everywhere you look, I drive myself crazy. I walk around with a book, this book here, and I leave it beside my bed because my brain is just full. Every morning I wake up with $1 million idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I drive myself crazy, and if I don't write it down, I can't stop thinking about it, and I get distracted. So there's plenty of ideas, there's plenty of opportunities, there's no lack. The problem is that the 96% of the people out there allow the smallest little thing, like someone saying you should do this and you should do that, cheat them out of big opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And so the real root problem is that people dream too small. Think about a dream. Like, a dream is cheap, doesn't cost you anything. What does it cost you to say, I want this? The problem is people are afraid of judgment.
Yeah.
What's the difference between, someone just being a regular mortgage broker versus you and, creating this platform and everything that you're doing? What stops people is judgment.
Yeah.
Why don't people dream enough? Because they're afraid to say it. And people say, hey, wait a minute. You didn't achieve it. Like, what's going
Right.
on? And the truth is, nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares. Dreaming big is the cheapest thing that you could do. It doesn't cost anything.
Right.
It just puts you at a different level of expansion.
Right.
And if you're going to expand, what are you going to expand to? To what? Right? You can't expand if you're realistic. And by the way, realistic is just it's a perspective.
Yeah.
You know, was Steve Jobs realistic? Was Steve Jobs realistic, or Jeff Bezos?
Yeah.
You know, what if they said, like, you know what, buddy, like, that's, come on, like, world domination? You know, like,
Yeah.
you can't. You know, who do you think you are, right?
Yeah.
All the greatest things in life started with a dream.
Yeah.
Everything around you. Look around that room. The room that you're in. Look around. Everything you're touching. The cup. It was part of someone's creation. Yeah. Everything in life. This glass. Someone has made billions of a glass. You know. You can look around anything in life, and it was someone's dream first.
Mm-hmm.
Look around. Everything is someone's dream.
Yeah.
Everything is someone's dream. And so the problem is the people that do listen to themselves and don't get in the way of themselves and allow just to dream big, you know, maybe you have to start, like, by doubling, mm-hmm. you know, doubling what you think you're capable of. Because as you know, the human being is limitless. That we all know. I don't think anybody watching this program right now can argue with the fact that the human being is limitless, and that we only really tap into about 10 to maybe 15% of our true potential. Yeah. What if we can expand to 20 to 25%? It would be like a renaissance on earth, right? Yeah. It would be, imagine if we can, you know, you start tapping into our full potential and not being realistic. Yeah. Not, you know, not just, you know, not being caught up with what other people's insecurities are and the reasons why they won't do anything, and making that your own.
Yeah.
Imagine we could just dream. Imagine we could dream and achieve and be.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That is extremely powerful. Wow. Sorry, just being in the presence of that thought is awakening something in me, right? To just consider something larger even. And you know, I'm the one thing I wrote down here to make sure I ask you is, because when I started this podcast, or the reason for me starting this podcast was because I was hearing a lot of people that were scared because of what's happening right now. And I started telling people, I said, this is the absolute best time to start a business. If you're thinking about it, now's the best time, because if you build in a market like this, you'll be able to handle anything, right?
Yeah.
If you, like you shared, if you build during good times, you're not ready for the hard times. You start building now, you're going to build in a way prepared for the earthquakes. You're going to be prepared for the hail. You're going to be prepared for all of those things, right? And so, and in sharing this with people, right, because everyone's at home, and so you get to talk to a lot of people about this, and there's a general sense where people feel stuck, and trying to help people to get over that. What do you normally talk about? How do you help people reframe and say, you know what, you're not actually stuck, first of all, right?
Yeah.
But how do you help people to reframe?
You know what? They are stuck.
Yeah.
That's the truth, right? So the first step is, I would say, and I always tell everybody, stand in your truth.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Standing in your truth and acceptance of where you are, your circumstances, and knowing that you have been completely responsible. You know, when my daughter was born, my first one, I have two daughters, my first one, I stood in my truth and I said, wait a minute, my entire life has been a result of me, not anybody else, right? And so I'm the only one that can really change the situation, right? If you're stuck, it's because you have been in the way of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If there's, at the beginning of COVID-19, this whole situation, I had to stand in my truth and really, come to terms with the fact that, the life that I knew in February, all the plans, all the things, everything, nothing was going to be the same.
Right.
And I had to take action right away to make sure I can protect the things that all my commitments to my employees, my tenants, my investors, my lenders, the government, everybody that's depending on me. I want to make sure that's okay. So there's no, being in denial. Everything's going to go back to normal. Mm-hmm. We just got to weather the storm. No, stand in your truth means acceptance. You have to come to terms first. Now you move forward, and moving forward means understanding where is it that you're going. Today, I'm operating based on what's going to happen, based on the goals and dreams of the next 5 years from today, or 10 years. I operate based on 10 years, 5 to 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. I'm not even focused on the COVID and the this and the other thing. I basically establish what I want, and I bring it to the present. And what are the things, if I'm going to be there, how do I need to operate today to be able to get to where I want to go? And so I have a long-term vision. We're having a conversation about this 40-year goals, right? Mm-hmm. Elon Musk has goals that he knows will outlive him. Mm. His type of mindset is he's thinking about 100 years. He's operating based on what his legacy is going to look like 100 years from today.
Wow.
And so, this is where people got to get out of, this is the situation. We don't have jobs right now. What are you going to look like in 5 years from now? Here's the truth. We're all going to get out of this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, at some point, we're all going to get out of this. The world might look different, but at some point, we're all going to get out of it.
Yeah.
The question for your viewers is, what are you going to look like on the other side? Mm-hmm. How do you see yourself at the other side? Are you going to be better or worse off than you were going into it? Yeah. How did you invest the time? Before this, everybody talked about, we all know what we have to do. We all know that we need to listen to podcasts. We need to wake up early in the morning. All the things that we hear about our entire lives if you're into personal development. Right. But what's the number one thing that stops people? Time. I don't have time. I don't have time to look at properties. I don't have time to pursue better skills. I don't have time to listen to podcasts. I don't have time to read books. I don't have time to, look at my health. I don't have time to spend time with my family. I got to work. But we have all been given a beautiful gift, which is time. That's the gift of COVID. That's the gift right now. And it's the same playing field for everyone. It's not, like someone has a little bit better. No, it's like the same wind blows on us all. Yeah. And so if we all have been given this precious gift of time, how are you going to get a return on investment on this time that you have been given? And what are you going to look like at the other side? That's the question.
Yeah. Wow. I guess it really comes down to, which do you want more, your excuses or the why, the reasons, the things that will pull you forward. You just really woke me up to a whole new reality when you just mentioned about Elon Musk there. I don't know if you saw the look on my face, but I just thought about, to have dreams that big.
Yeah.
He will have to engage other people to even make those things happen. And you can't worry about COVID-19. You can't worry about what's happening right now.
That's the last thing mind.
there's so much more. There's
Yeah,
so much, something so much bigger if you're going to work at that level. And you definitely can't worry about people's judgment. You can't even worry about your own judgment if
yeah.
you're going to actually try to go about accomplishing that. And even if you feel stuck, you okay, and you still have to move forward.
But
Wow.
we look at all these people like anomalies, right?
Yeah.
Like unicorns. Like there's
Yeah.
only going to be one Steve Jobs. There's only going to be one Elon Musk, and there's only one um, Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos. These are just people,
Yeah.
right? They we all have the power to manifest. We all have the power to create.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person on this planet. The only problem is you.
Mm.
You are in the way. You are in your own way.
Yeah.
Because of what, if you're either afraid of what people think of you, or you've been programmed your entire life to be realistic, stay small, and that is the biggest challenge for a lot of people. Like how to get out of that paradigm, how to just shift your mindset to grow, how to live in expansion versus contraction.
Yeah.
I grew up in a household coming from Latin America. I mean, everything is like we come to this country, we're immigrants. Like my mom, growing up, I mean, she's shifted her mindset now, but growing up it's like we're scared of even getting deported. Like,
Yeah.
where everything in my life was about scarcity and contraction and conserving, and turn off the lights, and the food that was made on Monday, Tuesday, we're still eating on Friday. And so, if you live in that limiting uh, lifestyle, you will always be small. You're always going to think small, right?
Right.
And so the problem is people are too afraid to just think a little bit outside. Just get uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Scare yourself a little bit. Don't be
Yeah.
afraid to think long term.
Yeah.
But don't get caught up in long term. What is it that you have to do today
Yeah.
that will get you there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is where, mentorship really comes in huge, which I'd like to talk about in our second portion. But I actually, a friend of mine said this. He said, we all have a mind, but it's how you set that mind, which is why it's
Yeah.
about mindset. And so, um,
And we all have the control to set it.
yeah, yeah, we all have that ability. So we'll talk about that in our next portion, and we're going to move over to our wealth portion. We'll end off this part, and for those of you that are listening, come join us in the leadership in the wealth portion in just a moment. All right.
All
Welcome
right,
back.
man.
We're here in our second portion. Our guest today is none other than serial entrepreneur, the owner of the Cuadra group of companies, and his name is Alfonso Cuadra. And we're so glad to have you on the show. Thank you very much for being here.
Oh, it's fun. I'm having a great. I don't know if you can tell. I'm having a great time. I don't even know how much time has gone by, but I think we're Joe Rogan in it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, I'll tell you, Joe Rogan's a huge inspiration. Was a huge inspiration for me because
Yeah.
most of the gems that I've learned from his podcast came from what we were talking about, someone's mindset. Then and then they talked a little bit about the things they do, because the things they do didn't matter without the mindset. Because if I can tell a quick story, I remember when I was younger and I had all this motivation and excitement, but I didn't know anything of what to do. Then you start spending your time learning some things, you get some knowledge, and then you're like, okay, great, but how's this really work? I've got, you read books and
Mm-hmm.
right, and then you're like, can someone steer me? Am I on the right track? These books say I'm on the right track, but you have no idea. And this is actually where I'd like us to start off with when it comes to wealth and wealth building. Is I think that mentorship is a huge part, and I know that you talk a lot about that. Can you talk to us about where you see mentorship before we talk about, I know you can talk about real estate and I can talk about real estate. We can talk private mortgages and we can talk, but where does mentorship come in for you, for someone that wants to get ahead, move forward, live their dreams?
Mentorship is the only way you're going to be able to tap into someone else's experience
Hmm.
and transfer that experience to you. I've made it my life to get around people that are better than me. People that are playing this game at a really, really, really higher level that I could even think about. And there's something that happens when people start tapping into somebody else's experience. It's like, when the student is ready, the master will show up.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, man, where were you all my life? Well, maybe I wasn't ready for that level of mentorship, 10 years ago. Right. And
Yeah.
at some point, you have to search for it. And so they work in levels, right? Like, and sometimes a mentor will only help you to get to that level until you have to level up and find new mentors and go to the next level and go to the next level and go to the next level. I know there's a program that that I want to join. It's about $200,000, but you're hanging around billionaires, right? There's 6 trips. It's $200,000. To me, that's completely worth it. What happens is a lot of people, they don't see value in just being around someone that has already been where you've been.
Right.
They've already played the game you're trying to play, right? And mentorship is, number one, you need to search for someone that has the experience that you don't have, and so they transfer that to you. But if it dies with you, then you're not passing it forward.
Right.
So once you have that experience, now I think it's a responsibility to pass it on to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the truth. There's an abundance of knowledge and everybody's dying to give it. Everybody's dying to transfer that knowledge. When people don't understand that, they think that there's everybody that's wealthy or that has means, they're trying to keep it for themselves.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not true. When you told me you have a podcast, I am more than happy to come on here and inspire who's ever listening to this program. Yeah. And that's part of mentorship, right? Like, I'm mentoring whoever wants to listen to. They might discover me, go down a black hole of all my different podcasts, interviews, content that I have online. Yeah. And that's part of mentorship. I know that just as much as I need mentorship, also I need to be able to be in a position to give mentorship to my employees, my tenants, my investors, my students, everybody that has access to me. I have a responsibility to give them the gifts that I've received.
Well, so here's an interesting question. This is my own, from my own journey, is I remember a time when I would see these people that would say that they were offering mentorship, but I was leery. What do they? Oh, they just want this money from you. They want the $1,000 or whatever it is, and you look around your circle and you ask them what they think. Do you think we can trust this person? And then, of course, your circle is at your level or below. And so you have a hard time breaking out of that. Now, I can speak for myself in that now I've realized in trusting my own ability to think, you can evaluate and go, is this person good? Hey, do you know this person? And you can at least weigh it out. And sometimes you're going to come up and it might be a bad bet. But you've got to put yourself out there and try to seek out mentors. But for a lot of people, I hear this consistently, where they're just not sure of whoever this person is. I kind of look at it the opposite way. Well, if you don't do anything, is
Yeah.
anything gonna change?
Yeah.
Would you suggest or help people to understand how to seek out mentorship?
Well, mentorship can happen in two ways. One is you pay for it, and the
Yeah.
second is you look for people that are where you want to be, that have the results that you want, right? I always like to look a few steps above,
Yeah.
right? And there's also
Why couldn't we not have had this conversation years ago? Why could we? Oh my goodness. Okay, carry on. I'm sorry.
and there's a fine line between uh, is that person now in expansion or conservation, right?
Mm,
Because a lot of the people sometimes when they get a little taste of success, they start to contract, they start to conserve, and they're not doing the things that got them there in the first place.
right.
And so the advice that you're going to get from a Warren Buffett today would be very different than the advice you would get from Warren Buffett 40 years ago,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so where are they? Are they in a position to help you expand? Because you need to expand and grow. And so number one, I look for people that have the results that I'm looking for and that are already advanced. But I also want to know, are these people in expansion or contraction or conservation?
Mm-hmm.
Are they
Wow.
conserving, right? Because there's nothing worse to get around a millionaire that's just trying to hold on to they're scared, right?
Yeah. They don't want to lose it.
Yeah, and so the decisions that they're going to make and the way they're going to act is not how they got there in the first place.
Right. Right.
And so that's the, I guess that's the, and then let's talk about paid and unpaid, right? You should have both, right? You should have people that you go and you build a relationship, and it really should be about giving. Everybody in the world is walking around like, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
But what you should the mindset should be, what's in it for them?
Yeah.
If they're gonna give you knowledge and experience, what are you doing for them? And if you're in a position where you can give some time, go work for their organization, whatever you can do, but it's a must.
Yes.
Get around people that have the results that you're looking for.
Yes. Oh, my friend, what you have not said truer words. So often, our mindset is, what can I get? And literally in that, we're worried about what we're going to lose, rather than sitting there and saying, this person has something that I'm looking for. What can I give them?
Yep.
Right. So that it really is a win-win in that situation. And maybe I'll give and it won't turn out in this situation, but maybe you can, as you continue, you will find the people that align. Right.
And here's another I guess
Wow.
Another habit that you need to break. When someone gives you something of value, go and do it. Don't go and ask somebody else to see which one of all the advices that you got was closest to where you wanted to be in the first place. And so most people look for validation versus really asking somebody, getting some like a real true advice from someone that can actually help them.
Yeah.
And so I would say limit the amount of people, and once you find someone, just go all in and invest in that person and consume them, whatever you got to do. And whatever piece of advice that you get, go and do it, because there's nothing worse to try to help someone and then they're like they came back with more questions, but they haven't even started the first thing that you told them to do.
Right. That is really powerful. Wow. And that's even, even to look at it from paid versus unpaid is powerful, because why would you, if someone is asking to be paid, why would you question that? Because it's an exchange, right? It's an exchange of goods. You're giving them something in exchange for what they're going to give you. And if what they're going to give you is of value to you, then why would you not want to pay for it in that situation, right? And so, wow, that's really powerful. And so, okay, there's so much more.
And here's the other
Yeah,
thing: if you
yeah,
don't have the money,
yeah,
that's why you need it. You
yeah,
need it even
yeah,
more.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's got to be the classic, right? Oh, I don't have the money for it. I don't have
Yeah.
the money for it. Well,
There's
how are you?
a reason. If you can't come up with, like a couple $1,000,
Yeah,
like, then you need this bad.
right.
Like, need this bad. And as you develop yourself,
Yeah,
if it means you've got to pay, I mean, don't think that's the last time you're going to have to pay,
yeah,
because there's a next level and the next level. And in your journey, you will find people that, there'll be an exchange that is not monetary. It's maybe something else.
yeah,
And then, but you got to keep climbing. And every time you get to a level, you got to reach for the next level.
yeah.
And I'm telling you, it doesn't get cheaper,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because to me, there's no amount of money that I would not pay to invest in myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Now what you're sharing is very interesting to me, because there was a time where I would have hoarded whatever I had. And now, as I've grown, both mentally, maturity, and financially, I've found myself thinking, how can I spend more? Because you know that you can be exposed to so much more. You can learn so much more from, like you're saying, people that are so much further ahead of you and are at those levels. And one of the best and worst things that I would share is, because you talked about finding someone that's a few steps further.
Yeah.
And one of the mistakes I made was someone was ahead of me, but they were only a step ahead of me. So they said, "Hey, here's what you do." And this was in 2007.
Yeah.
I bought a rental property. Great, I got a rental property. They had said, "This is how you do it," and I bought a rental property. And I said, "Now what?" And they said, "You just keep doing it." Well, how? Well, they had a couple of partners, and they said, "Well, I
They
guess
hadn't
you
read
should
that
get."
chapter yet.
Yeah, they said, "I guess you should get a couple of partners." I was like, "Where do you find partners?" Right?
Yeah.
And you topped out, and so there's huge value in finding someone that's a few levels above you, so that they can help you through that progression, not just get stuck at that next level.
Exactly.
Wow, that is very powerful. Okay, so I promised we'd get to real estate, because I think you and I could get way down this road. But okay, so we talked about mentorship. Now, what do you teach when it comes to real estate? Because obviously that's a big one for you.
Well, first of all, a lot of people that I come in contact with have misinformation, right?
Oh, okay.
And the misinformation comes from society, right? You know, Society says that you have to do this, you have to do that. The normal things that society does, and
Yeah.
people are following what everybody else is doing. Nobody has independent thought, or sits down and starts researching wealthy people and what are they doing, and
Mhm.
why are their results different than everybody else. So most people, um, they want to operate based on where they are, and based on their current financial situation, credit, their maybe their resources or job or whatever it is, right? And we were talking about it earlier about setting goals, and setting a goal, it scares you and excites you, but now how can you bring it to today and start operating
Right.
as if you already are there, right?
Right.
And so what happens is, most people, the biggest mistake people make is they start small, right? Because that's what's comfortable. That's what the mind allows.
Mm-hmm.
And you read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's must have sold like 20 million copies, if not more.
Right.
People that I come in contact with on a daily basis, they've all read the book. Everybody's read the book, Neil.
Yeah.
And in the book, tell me where it says buying your own house is an asset. Tell me where it says that.
He's a huge he's always against it, right? He always speaks against it.
And not only that, in every other real estate book that I've ever read, it says that, but people skip that part. People skip that part, and they go to what's tangible right now, and what, you know, they focus on, you know, I got a house because society says your house is your biggest asset. Right. And so the game Monopoly, right? Monopoly, right? Where in Monopoly does it say buy your own house? Yeah. Right? And it says get 2 and you level 3 red, what is it?
4 greenhouses.
Is level up to 1 hotel.
Yeah.
Right? Hotel. Right? And that's the point of the game. Doors, right? Because that single family house is the most expensive per unit in real estate that you that you will ever pay for, that you will ever buy, right? Mm-hmm. So the cost per unit on the single or the double or the 3 is going to be the most expensive. Simple economics, supply and demand. Right. You know, how many people do you personally know that are looking for a 36 unit building? Mm-hmm. Versus how many people do you know that are looking for a single family house? Right. And so because the majority of the consumers are going after the singles and the doubles, this is what inflates the price, because at that level, the value is based on emotion, it's based on comparable, it's based on what buddy down the street sold for, not based on logic and reason. We hear it all the time. You hear this. You've heard this before. Kitchens and bathrooms sell homes, right? You hear that all the time. Yeah. What does it have to do with money, right? This is a business. Right. And so the problem with the single, even as a personal, like, look, let's take that aside. The fact that your own personal house is not an asset, right? You should go out and try to make money, you know, buy a house that you can make money from. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, now let's look at the economics of a house. There's just too many leaks, right? You have one income and you have all of these expenses. You can hardly even pay for all the expenses, right? The taxes, the repairs and maintenance, the furnace, the vacancies, the roof, the window. You just have one income. Neil, it's like getting into business. You know, let's say you start a company and you only have one customer. Doesn't make any sense. Right. And so what happens is, you know, people get into that game because it's the easiest thing to get into. It's what everybody else is looking. And it's usually based on their current circumstances, what they can afford, what their loan to their income debt ratio is, and all of these things. And then they look at that and they say, that's the only thing, that's where I want to start, right? Yeah. And so maybe they get 2 houses or 3, and it becomes a nightmare for them. And for a lot of people, they say this stuff doesn't work. Mm. You see, there's a difference between, you know, someone that owns that single door versus the multi-family. When someone moves out of my 36 unit building, it's a non-event for me. Right. If someone moves out of your 1 unit house, you're 100% vacant.
Yeah.
And now you're all you can think about is the mortgage is due next month, and there's you have no cash flow reserve. You have no reserves because there's barely any, because the house, all the money gets eaten up alive by all these expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And so you basically run around, and the next person with a heartbeat that comes and submits an application, you'll take them.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't do the proper vetting.
Yeah.
3 months down, you're having problems, an issue, these people are late. And so that's the difference between the amateur and the professional.
Yeah.
And so basically what I teach people is to level up, even, just a little bit, to get outside of your comfort zone. Because in my view, the higher you go in units, the easier it gets. The easier it gets to finance, the easier it gets to raise money for in terms of investors, the more cash flow that's involved, the more reserves, the more maintenance you can put into the property.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these benefits on leveling up. And that is the first lesson that if you ever come in contact with me, even if you meet me at the airport, I will give you that first lesson on how it's always better to level up.
Level up. Wow. Okay, so let's just take that for people that are just starting out, because this is always the question is, well, I don't have the money to. Obviously, most people think, all right, even if I wanted to get a single family home or a duplex or something like that, I don't know how to come up with that. And do you tell people, okay, all right, you don't have money right now, here's what you need to do. Start here.
Yeah. So this is I get that question all the time. Believe it or not, that is the number one question.
Yeah.
And it usually starts with this: I have about $10,000.
Yes.
$10,000 to $20,000.
Yeah.
What should I do?
Yeah.
What's the neighborhood, right? What's the neighborhood? What's the city? What should I do? And so my answer, it always surprises people, because your first investment should always be in yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't know what to do with those $10,000, you're not even at a level where you should be investing that, because you're going to lose it, guaranteed. Or it's not going to grow and nothing will happen, right?
Yeah.
Your first investment should be back into yourself.
Yeah.
So you create what I like to call is intellectual currency, right? So there's two types of currencies: the currency that we all understand, money, argent,
physical,
dinero, and the next one is the intellectual currency, is what we know.
Yeah.
And it's not what we know that keeps us poor. It's what we don't know. And so there's a lot of things that at this level, if you only have $10,000, you will lose it if you don't know how to identify a deal. Yeah. You have to learn how to identify a deal. And the more you invest in yourself, the more that the more you'll find deals, and the less money you'll need. Because I'm telling you, if you learn how to find deals, money will come.
Money will come. Yep. Yes, that's amazing. Okay, so
but again, let's go back to you said people they can't see themselves having that 4-unit or whatever.
Right.
So if once you've invested in the education, podcast, books, get a real understanding of what it is to be an investor.
Yeah.
Once you get that education, you're not going to go for the onesies and the twosies.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe at the very beginning, you're going to level up. You might not go to the 36 unit, but you know what? Start somewhere at least that makes sense. Start looking at 4 or 5 units or 6 units. And what people don't realize, as being a mortgage broker, when you're looking at between 3 and 6, okay, still on the residential side, okay, they can take into consideration those rents. and they're going to add them to your
Right.
income to help you qualify for a bigger asset.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And a lot of people, it's interesting because of people's money consciousness. The more zeros you add on, the scarier it looks. And so people
Yeah.
don't want to wade into that water, even though when the more zeros that get added on, the less they're going to look at your own bank account, your own things. They're going to look at the asset and what does it
Yeah.
actually produce, right? And so a lot of people don't understand that concept. So obviously you talk to people first to get into, invest in yourself. Do you recommend, obviously you talked about podcasts and books and stuff like that. We all know people who read 1,000 books and, listen to thousands of podcasts, but do you recommend any training programs? Are there any
So
that
I'm
you?
not gonna, I won't talk specifically about,
Okay.
but they're out there. I mean, there's
Yeah.
lots.
Yeah. Well, there's almost too many today, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah. But you know what? Any like, start somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the most important about anything is do. Like,
Yes.
whatever you're learning, if someone gives you a piece of advice that, and you know that those people have the results that you're looking for, go out and do it. Start doing it. And the more you do something, the more you become immersed in it, the more of a confidence that you build. And it just comes to confidence. Like, we own real estate all across Canada. There's obviously a confidence level that I have that I didn't have before, right? I wasn't born knowing everything about real estate. I wasn't born knowing everything about business. It's through growth, and it's through education, investing in myself, and in getting out there and doing, falling down, and getting up and realizing what it is that, what's important, and putting together the team, operations, collections, and, just following good real estate fundamentals that I learned right at the very beginning of my real estate career, that, that have stayed with me the entire time. And eventually you get this confidence and you start to level up, right? Remember, you always got to be in a level of expansion. And that's where I'm at right now. Where I'm going to be in 5 years from now might be a different level of understanding, and I'll have a different level of confidence, which is why I haven't built a skyscraper yet, right? Because I haven't come to that level of confidence. But it's just the same. I mean, the people that put together skyscrapers, those people are human, right? They're just their understanding and their perspective is different, and they've just expanded to the level where that's normal. Like, why wouldn't you put up a skyscraper? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You get buy 36 units? Like, come on, what are you doing? Right? And so it's just like, it's growth, it's expansion. It's just allowing yourself to grow. And like we talked about it before, dream bigger, just a little bit bigger at first. And then once you get the hang of it, dream a little bit even bigger, even bigger than that. Right. And at some point you'll find yourself with the confidence, and you look back, and you'll say, whoa, I can't believe what we just did. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. That's, my mind's going in so many different areas. Just this concept of always leveling up. And now I'm thinking, and for all you guys that are listening, I'm sorry, but I'm just in awe of this.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it is. Okay. All right. So let me just check to make sure that okay. Oh, we're there. Oh my goodness. I've run out of time. Okay.
Joe Rogan did.
Yes, that's right. Joe Rogan did. Okay. I should stop there. So what I'm going to say and ask now is, so we now know you're looking at $75,000, 7,500 in the 7,500 in the short term, 75,000 a little further down the road. And what are some other things that you're excited about right now, and you're got your
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
yeah.
So, my, I guess my, you asked about hobbies,
Yeah.
and I don't know if I could classify it as a hobby, but, I really enjoy inspiring young people,
Hmm.
teaching young people new skill sets, just getting them to think a little different than
Hmm.
the norms of society, right? Um, we started the podcast, or the last section, talking about my life and where I was at 15, and I was homeless, and um, I felt like nobody was there for me, right? And so I want to be there for young people, and so we started a foundation, very event based, and where it started from was because I was going to these schools, and I was, teaching these concepts of, personal development, and a lot of the schools said, "Oh, come tell your story," right?
Hmm.
And inspire the young people. I just felt an hour is not enough, you know,
Yeah.
right? And so how long has this been going on? Our interview, 1 hour?
We're over an hour.
Yeah, so I haven't even got started, so I
Yeah.
came up with this program. It's 1 day,
Yeah.
and there's follow up to it, and maintenance, and making sure that people stay accountable. And then I pitched it to the school board,
Yeah.
they're like, "Alfonso, we're happy that you have all this, and you know just not the right time, and I think it's just too advanced for our young people, and we just want you to come in, like, and kind of inspire them, you know."
Hmm.
And we're mostly focused on the at-risk youth.
Hmm.
That we'd like it if you come in and speak to our at-risk youth.
Yeah.
And again, I'm very curious and ask questions, because people use these terms, right? And
Yeah.
you know,
At risk.
and
Yeah.
yeah, at risk, and that sounds like serious, like,
Yeah.
and who's at risk, like, who are the young people that are at risk? What do you mean by that? And they're like,
Hmm.
what we, like inner city kids,
Right.
and kids that are, I guess what they say at risk are kids that are at a point where they might drop out of high school,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I said, you're wrong. Your terminology is wrong. All kids right now are at risk. All of
Hmm.
them. All of them right now. They're not like, even today, where when we're talking right now today, kids are lost, displaced. They're not going to school. They lost that connection to their education. And so, a long time ago, I said I can do many things, right? One would be just complain, like, there's no financial literacy in the education
Right.
system. It did me so wrong, or I could do something about it.
Yeah.
And that's what I decided to do. I started the Cuadra Youth Foundation,
Hmm.
and we've had a lot of pilot projects, which are these 1 day events, and where everybody told me that, what, this is too heavy for the young people. You need to simplify it.
Hmm.
I didn't want to dumb it down for them. I wanted so the program is like it's a full day. It's live. So what we're going to shift into this year, it's going to be online, which will be new for me, for you know trying to attract young people to an online platform that they
Hmm.
could show up. And so it might not be as long at the very beginning as we learn, but the program that we have is 1 day, 20 to 40 kids, ages 12 to 17. And I think that's an optimal age in terms of absorbing and being able to use the information. So we start off with business skills, entrepreneurial skills, sales. Neil, imagine someone at 15 years old taught you sales. Where would you be today? The highest
Absolutely.
income earners of our in history are salespeople,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an important skill set, and they don't teach that in school.
No.
Work ethic. So we go business, marketing, sales, work ethic, And then the end of the day, we ended up with public speaking and leadership. So we go leadership, public speaking, because it kind of like, kind of goes into, it segues nicely.
Mm-hmm.
And we end off the day with everyone in the room. This is why I say up to about 40 kids. Then it gets, people won't get they won't have the opportunity to talk. And so we get them up on stage and I say, listen, if you just sit here and say nothing, you've accomplished what you've come here to accomplish, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they're scared. Sometimes these kids, they don't want to stop talking, and so it's about 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes just to, we show them the kind of fundamentals of putting together a small presentation. And at the end of it, so the name of the program is the Ultimate Teen Entrepreneur. And so they get certificate. And so here's my commitment. And whoever is listening to this, this year, obviously, we're going to do things online. So you can reach out to me. And if you want to get involved, and all I'm looking for is support in getting young people to the platform. It's going to be an online event. So, I need support in getting young people to make sure they sign up and show up to the event.
Mm-hmm.
But moving forward, because this COVID stuff will be behind us. If someone anywhere in North America, I would say for now, can put together 20 to 40 kids in a room,
Mm-hmm.
right? We will book the venue. It will be a hotel venue because I don't want to do these in community centers. I think they will get more value and they would take it seriously with linens and water and crystal, in a real professional environment, just the way we learn and go to seminars. And if anybody can put that, 20 to 40 kids, we'll book the venue. I will fly out there with my team at our own expense, no cost to the young people whatsoever. And we will deliver this program.
Wow, that's fantastic. How can you not be inspired by that?
Yeah.
And I definitely would love to talk more about that. I was fortunate to hear you talk about that, and I would definitely love to talk about that more and perhaps how we could partner on.
Yes,
on
let's
that.
do it.
I would
Let's
love
do
to.
it.
So if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to learn more about you, if they want to,
what we're trying to push now during COVID, because we've all gone high tech.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
online podcasts. Here we go.
6 months ago, I started to be very active on YouTube, and we have about 1,000 subscribers since then.
Okay.
So I would encourage everyone, at least go and check me out on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything, and if you want to hear me, talk about all kinds of things that are helping me in my life, that's where I go and deliver that content on YouTube. Other than that, I'm on every platform. As you know, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn. If I'm not there, shame on me. Please send me an email and say, how come you're not on this platform?
Yeah.
And I'll be sure to get on it. But easiest way to get a hold of me, info@alfonsocuadra.com, info@alfonsocuadra.com. You can Google me. I'm very Googleable. And I would love to connect to anybody, whatever capacity they want.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, you've got two things to do. You've got to go make sure you hit the subscribe button on this channel, and then make sure you head over to Alfonso's channel and on YouTube, and of course hit the subscribe button and the like button and the follow button. And,
or unlike. Even if you unlike, it's like it's all love,
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Well, unfortunately, we should end it right here, and I look forward to us talking again. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for all the words of wisdom, how much you are willing to share your life with all of us here at Leadership Nation. And on behalf of everyone, thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.